right, welcome into the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Meko.
What's good, man?
And Gionne.
Welcome.
Oh my gosh, here we go again. Every week. It's all good. Yes, Gionne, Meko,
Football's
good to have
back.
you. Football is back. First show after the opener. But again, please like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please hop on to questionabletees.com. Check out our new merch. Again, we got a new shirt out. The Hockamania 2.0 is available. Very cool new design. So that's been fun. We've been working on that. We got the Motor City Dan Campbell tour shirt also flying off the shelf. So you got to get it. Limited quantities. So, all right. Now that we got that out the way, the Lions home opener, they lose to the Eagles 38-35. I know a lot of the listeners have heard probably a lot of people talk about a lot of things, and we're going to break down our opinions and kind of after a couple days, right, where everything's kind of settled, we're going to dig in. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the loss. Are we being too negative? We're going to talk about, potential who can repeat performances. And then we're going to preview the Lions versus Commanders game coming up this weekend. And real quick, I don't think I've told either of you, but surprise, my sister-in-law hooked it up, and I will be on the field on Sunday for my birthday.
Nice.
So
That's great.
Questionable Tees will be representing on the field. Hopefully get to meet the fellas, might get into the locker room, and we are going to have a little – she's also putting a birthday picture up on the Jumbotron so we can get a little hashtag Questionable Tees out on there too. So that should be interesting. So I didn't tell the guys yet, but that's what's happening on Sunday. So I will definitely probably should go live when I'm down there too on Instagram.
Yes. Duh. If you don't, you're just wasting an opportunity.
So anyway, so my birthday's Friday. Yes, I'm old, but I am young at heart. So anyway, having gotten that out the way, this weekend should be exciting. But let's get into this game. Meko and John, we've had this crazy text chain. Like, for those that don't know, we have a Questionable Podcast text chain, and it's very fun sometimes. And sometimes it's a little like, what is happening? And there's like 40 messages I have to catch up on. So I was at an event in Cleveland and went through John and Meko talking about the game. So I'm excited. Now let's lay it all out. So Meko, do you want to kind of take us, get us started here?
Yeah. I mean, I think to your point about things getting fairly heated between Gionne and I on Sunday, it kind of revolves.
It's never bad, but it's
terrible. No, it's infighting amongst family. All right. This always happens when you have passionate debate. And it for the first part of it, it really revolves around this question, which is basically like, are we being too negative after the Lions loss?
Okay.
We all predicted the Lions would lose. If you didn't catch that, go listen to last week's podcast. We all did predict them to lose, and we all did predict them to lose close. So that is not a surprise. However, full transparency, I think between Gionne and I was a little bit on the more negative side of this. Like, I was a little more just like, not mad.
You were a little more Valenti. I heard him getting ham on it. Yeah.
Like
Valenti's was going crazy. Like, it's not good enough. It's just
and I think that's. I'm gonna give the floor to Gionne first because I think he has the perfect answer as to why he believes that we are being too negative. So Gionne, you lead us off, and then I will follow up with my viewpoint.
So I think all of our listeners, male and female, can relate, and non-binary. Everyone can relate to this experience. You're out with the friends at the bar, you see someone you're attracted to, and you're like, oh my God, they're a 10. And you go and you talk, and it's going great. And it's just effortless conversation. And then the other person says to you, like, do you want to get out of here? And you're like, oh my God, yes. And then you go home, you go back to their place, you have a great time. And then the next morning you wake up and it's like, oh, they're not a 10. They're more like, they're just not a 10. And you still had a great time. And you still want to, like, you still had a great time. The conversation was still great. So you still want to see them again. But your initial impression of them may have been
influenced
by certain things. In this analogy, Hard Knocks is the alcohol. Detroit Lions are the significant other. I think a lot of the media narrative around this loss can be summarized by a Hard Knocks hangover. I think a lot of very passive fans just knew that, like, oh, the Detroit Lions are on the Dragon Channel. And I think as we really take advantage, because I think we really take for granted how closely people follow this stuff. If you're listening to our show, if you're listening to a sports podcast, like, you probably are more dialed in than 99.7% of the population. And so I think a lot of the chatter, a lot of the talk online, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, wherever you want to go, I think is influenced by people who may have watched Hard Knocks, and that was like the first time they watched a sports show. And, you know, as Dan Campbell said, they're professionals at what they do. They're going to make them look great. And so they got super hyped up, and then they lose. And at times, especially the second quarter, they looked really bad. And so I think that was just a huge shock. And so I think that really accounts for a lot of what we're hearing.
Which we're going to talk about shortly too.
In the reaction of the game. Now, I just wanted to have, now I have stats I want to go over, but I just want to get your guys' thoughts. Do you think I am out of line with this analogy?
I'm going to start because I made this special for John. Hey, KoolAid. We got the KoolAid drop. Oh yeah. Sorry, that's all I got. Meko, go ahead.
I'm gonna say, so I'm gonna go based off your analogy. I think your analogy is a little bit off, right?
Okay.
And this is where it's off. I'm with you up until the point.
I like the analogy though. I like it.
I do.
I do like it. It was very good, well delivered, John. It was good.
Mm-hmm. No, I think where I think things go wrong is that, in your analogy, is that it's not waking up and finding out that the other person is a 6 or something like that. It's finding out that they're not exactly what you thought they were, like,
right. Yes. Perfect. Yeah.
In general, like they have way more flaws than you initially, like, you were so hammered off the KoolAid, and then you woke up the next day, and not only is he or she or whatever your preferred pronoun is not a 10, but they're also, like, missing a leg, and they're like, you realize, like, you thought they were really flexible, and you're just like, no, like, that completely came off. Like, this is a prosthetic. Like, this was never real to begin with.
There's like ceramic armadillo figurines,
right,
everywhere.
Right, like, you didn't realize how heavy the makeup was until the next morning, and you realize like there's makeup everywhere. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, like, the Instagram or Facebook, like, videos where, like, the people are not very attractive, but they put on so much makeup where you were like, that should be a crime. Like, that's catfishing to a different degree.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like this game was a little bit, because I just didn't expect the lulls that came, right? They, like you said, they had a horrible second quarter. I looked at the stat sheet at halftime because I'm just like, man, like, this feels very lopsided. And I didn't realize how lopsided until I started looking at the box score at halftime and seeing, actually, it was right before halftime.
Yeah.
Looking at the box score.
Meko, again, reminder, Meko was at the game. He saw this live.
Yeah.
Which I do want to ask you some questions about, but continue.
Yeah. So the thing that actually made me look at the box score was because, again, at the game, if you've never been to a Lions game, on the Jumbotron, like, they will, have different statistics around the league that are showing. So, like, who's leading in passing, who's leading in rushing, who's leading in receiving, like, all that type of stuff. And so I had looked up and they had passing, and I'm like, okay, and they only show the top 10. And I believe Jalen Hurts was in the top 10. And I was like, Jared Goff's not in the top 10. Yeah, like, before halftime. And I'm like, man, Jared Goff's not in the top 10. And I'm like, well, how bad could he be? Like, how far off from the top 10 could he possibly be? So I pulled up Bleacher Report, went to the game, pulled up his stats, and I can promise you guys, I did not expect to see, what was it, 6 yards? This was
Something like
before
that, yeah.
their yeah, it was before the drive that they made to get the touchdown to make it 21-14. I sat there and jaw dropped, and I was like, "This is unacceptable." And that's what I mean in waking up and realizing that it's not
That
at all what you thought it would be.
that
Because
makes sense. Now that makes sense in your tone of your text. That's so now I've got the full picture.
yeah, because it's
For
just
those
like,
listening, Meko was like so like shocked and mad. He was so mad.
I was so disappointed,
He
right?
was so mad.
Because
When Meko gets
everything that
mad, too. Meko's pissed. Look out.
well, because everything that we had been told, Hard Knocks, coaching staff, and just regular press conferences, everything we had been told was that Jared Goff looked amazing. Jared
Right.
Goff had command of this offense. Jared Goff looked better than he had all last season. And we ourselves were even saying that we expected a little bit of carryover from those last few games. Like that, maybe that's the confidence boost that Jared needs to really start stringing this together. And it was not there the first half. Like
Right.
it
Yeah.
wasn't even close until that last drive before the half ended. And he kind of started stringing things together, but it was not good. And so that's where I feel like it's a little skewed because like, or your perspective, John, is a little skewed, is just because it was so bad. And it's not that like I'm trying to just fixate on the bad. It's just that it was so misleading from everything that we thought was going to happen going into this game.
Yes. And completely agree in regards to, yeah, the first half, where I think a lot of responses to this game come from what seemed like to come from a place of, like Darius Speaks, Locked on Lions, said, giving up too many yards, and gotta get some stops. And it just seems like so like, oh my God, wow, really? And it's just like so many of the like quote unquote like
His research.
analyses that
Yeah.
people have been putting in, it can be boiled down to mistakes are bad and we shouldn't make and we can't keep making mistakes. Mistakes are bad and we need to not do bad things. And it's just like, well, that's
Like
no
no
shit.
shit.
Common
no
sense.
shit.
Like it's
Yeah,
common sense.
I mean, so and that's why I think the idea of like a hangover kind of makes sense to me, because so much of the analysis does boil down to these like vague no-brainer isms, and like, well, we just need to be better, or but to that, I would like to say, for me, and I'm going to give Meko a chance, this was the meat of our debate. Was I was much more optimistic about the game as a whole, coming out of Sunday. And the reason why I compiled a list here, how many times did we see in recent years, and even last season probably, that drive down the field, march, and then stall out in the red zone? And we had technically 4 trips, but 5. I think one of our touchdown one of Goff's touchdown passes was like 25 yards. So,
yeah, so
technically isn't like not in the red zone, but let's just say,
yeah,
5 trips to the red zone, 5 touchdowns. Not 5 field goals, 5 touchdowns. The Lions offense outscored the Eagles offense. The Lions offense outscored every other team in the league other than the Eagles and the Chiefs. While they did struggle mightily with AJ Brown, all other Eagles receivers combined logged for 8 catches for 88 yards. Devontae Smith had 0 catches for 0 yards. The Lions secondary did not give up a touchdown through the air. Nick Baumgartner over at The Athletic had the Lions with 19 pressures against arguably the best O-line in the NFL. I'm going to get like Jalen Hurts beat us. I don't think the Eagles as a team did. And I think that's why I'm sort of optimistic about, is like those 19 pressures, as soon as Hurts felt it, he was gone. And
Mhm.
you can argue, well, we should have had better spy. We should have been more prepared. We should have played more contained, blah, blah, blah. And those are legitimate. I'm not going to say anything about
Those
that.
are
But
fair. Those are fair. But
Hurts is, like Scott was saying last week, it feels like in this day and age, you need a superhero on your team to go deep into the playoffs. And it really seems like Jalen Hurts is a superhero. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I mean, the dude's just incredible. And so I'm gonna keep going, but I wanna open it back up. Just
I think, yeah, I'm gonna hop
Yeah,
in
Scotty,
here
go ahead.
and let you guys go. Now you're giving a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts. Now, I think that he played well. I think you're right on the spy was an issue. I know that we changed things at halftime. You know, Anzalone did his best, right?
Mhm.
In regards to that, but still, I mean, Jalen Hurts has like, I mean, you have to think about it too, right? You know he's gonna run, right? Because he didn't throw that many passes. He had 10 completions to AJ Brown. Which again, you can't. I mean, it's AJ Brown. He's a beast. Jalen Hurts is a big, and Jalen Hurts is learning how to play in this system, right? I mean, he's starting to get what he needs to do in order to win. And so I think it's Jalen Hurts, Gainwell, and Sanders. I mean, they ran, you know what I mean? It wasn't just him. Like they got some run on us, right?
Yeah.
So that's tough because I think Jalen Hurts is good. I don't, and we will see. I don't think he's a superhero yet, John, but he's been playing really well. And we'll see this season if they can do it. I mean, they are a good team. They are a good team, and we got to give them credit. And we all said that we were going to lose, right? Let's go back to this. We all said we were going to lose. We thought it would be close. We were 100% right on our prediction from last week, right? Can we all agree on that?
Yeah.
And we also said last week, so if you haven't heard it, go listen. But what we also said last week is it was going to be one or two plays that the Lions had that we were going to fudge up. And if we don't have those plays, we will win the game. Now let's look back. And in general, yeah, there's like 2 to 3 plays, play calls, whatever. You know, we can argue what those are. And Tracey Walker getting ejected, let's be real, that hurt a lot. And so, yeah, those things don't happen, right? We have a chance to win. I'm not saying we win, but we have a chance to win. But again,
Scotty, that's
where
that's
hard on ourselves. We make it so hard on ourselves. We got in these. We did this last year. We get in these big holes, and we got to dig ourselves out. We do, but then we don't win. So, go ahead, Meko.
No, that's where I do disagree though, right? Because a lot of people are saying that, well, it's 1 or 2 plays. It's 1 or 2 plays. It's not 1 or 2 plays. 1 or 2 plays is what kept like.
That's fair. Fine, that's fair. I'll give you. I'll agree. Yes, not 1 or 2 plays. It was a 3 and outs and the pick. I mean, it was a bunch of plays. Yeah. Okay. I will take that back. Okay.
No, it's because it's not just you, right? It's not just you that's saying that, and it wasn't just John that said it. Like a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, it's just 1 or 2 plays, or it's just the pick six, or it's just the onside kick." Like, no, or it's just Tracey Walker getting ejected. No, there's an entire second quarter.
Yeah.
No,
you're right. You're right.
Right.
I completely agree. Yeah.
There's an entire second quarter of missed opportunities. The number of missed opportunities the Lions had, I think Jared Goff even said this in his press conference, where he believed that they could have hung up 50 on this Eagles defense.
Yep.
But because of wrong routes, missed opportunities, missed throws, drops, whatever, all the above, that's why they did it. And so when you look at this game, I feel like the Lions are a little fortunate, and that's why I believe, like, it's not like people are being a little too negative. Like, if you're going off the deep end and you're saying, well, this is why they won't win anything this season, or SOL, or yada yada yada, like, I think you are being a little too dramatic. I think you have every right to be upset though, because some of the things that kept this team from winning are the exact same things that kept them from winning last year.
Thank you.
And the result is the exact same.
How
many games did we keep saying that the Lions almost won last year? They lost what, 6 games or 8 games by 6 points or less, or 3 points or less, or whatever it was. Like, and then this game is the exact same. But again, so that's where my frustration comes in, because it's not that you lost, because I predicted you would lose. It's the manner in which you lost. I was telling my wife this when we were talking about the game. How you lose matters to me. It does, because it really frames your team and how you execute as a team. When I was saying last week that I wouldn't be disappointed if they lost, that was under the impression that it was literally back and forth. It's tit for tat. Like you're literally you're scoring, you're getting a stop, maybe they score, like it's a little back and forth. This at one point in time no longer became back and forth.
No, it almost got out of hand, right?
It almost became out of hand. Yes.
It was 21-7, and it was like, oh shit, here we go again.
Right. And essentially, and Dan Campbell also said this in his
I woke up and she didn't have a leg.
Yeah. And Dan Campbell essentially said it in his press conference. They got stuck in a hole and they had to spend the rest of the game playing catch up. And eventually they just ran out of time. That's what has continued to plague this team, reaching all the way back to last season. So again, I'm not mad. Like I didn't walk out of that game like, oh, I can't believe they lost and they suck and blah, blah. No.
Same.
It's
I
just
shook my head at the end, right? You're like, okay. Like
well, and I said this last week. If they lost close, I would know exactly what it was that lost the game for them. And that's kind of what I want to transition into now. Like they lost. And I don't think we have to necessarily, again, this was a part of the other conversation that Gionne and I were having, that we were going back and forth. It's like, I'm not trying to be negative, but I am trying to be critical thinking in that, like, okay, if they lost, what lost them the game? Like, what is the reason they lost? Because I don't believe this team sucks. I know some people are going to say that. They're just going to be like, oh, they're terrible. They don't have enough talent. It's this, it's that. I don't believe that's the case. But I do believe there are tangible things that actually happened in this game that lost them the game. Scotty, what do you think that was for you?
I got something for you.
Yeah. Oh no.
Brought it back from last year. For those who know, it's the car crash. It's a car crash we had for Jared Goff last season.
A streetcar named Goff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it one more time just to really make the point. For me, yeah, it was Jared, in my opinion, because right, he, like you had said, like we had heard, like he'd been saying, all of his preparation, he's been in the books, he's been doing all this stuff, he's got full command. He did not. I mean, if it wasn't for Swift and Jamal did not have a good PFF rated game, but I thought he played better. Like the eye test for me for Jamal was better than what his numbers were.
He capitalized on his moments.
Yeah. So, but without Swift, I mean, that dude came to play. I want to give him his flowers real quick. We can talk about him in a minute, but like DeAndre Swift and whatever Deuce Staley's doing, I know we saw it in Hard Knocks, but like, wow. He was fearless. He was running downhill. Every time he was like going to go out of bounds or he went outside, he went back to the middle and he took those hits and he delivered some hits. Like, good on him. Like, he is the reason I was so jazzed about that game. He's one of the reasons. Like, DeAndre Swift and the O-line and what he was able to do, like, good on him, good on them. Now, with that, you got to capitalize on that, Jared. So, in my opinion, Goff, yeah, you can't go 3 and outs and then a pick 6. So that, I mean, in my opinion, that is where that was the hole. And at that point, it's all about survival, right? So at that point, it's survival mode for the team, for the coaches. Like, okay, that's where we get the onside kick from, right? Not from that moment, but that's where it's like we're overthinking. We're not just playing the game. It's now catch up, and we ran out of time. So to me, I thought it was Jared that lost the game. Now he looked rusty and he looked better in the second half, but like that's what happens when you don't play in the preseason. Like he hasn't played in a game, and so now he's not the only one, right? A lot of teams on Sunday and Monday, everybody looked rusty because nobody's playing the preseason. But that's what we're gonna get, and to me, that's a little bit on Dan Campbell too. If you're gonna let these guys not play, get the reps. I mean, this is what you should expect then. A little bit. And I expected more from Jared. I was rooting for him, right? He was one of the ones I was rooting for last week when we were saying who we rooting for. I was rooting for him. Yeah. Now, again, he had a better second half. He dropped a couple dimes, but he did not play a full game. And that's what I'm saying. We lost games. He did not play a full game. So that's in my opinion.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm not really sure. Like, because think that was all really, really well said. And I wanted to go back to something you had said in your previous go around, Meko, when you were talking about they looked the same they did last season. And I feel like that was the best. You didn't say that in the text, but now that I hear it, like I think that's the best counter argument to what I was going to bring up. And I can go into these stats later. Go
ahead.
But it wasn't.
Catch you off on that.
Can I clarify? It wasn't look the best. It was there were things they did the same. Meko, is that what did you say?
It's how the game flowed. The game flowed in a very similar way to how games flowed last year, right? Slow starts, maybe like a quick score where you're like, oh, there's some life, and then there's a lull, and then there's the catch up, and then there's the late third, fourth quarter grind of grit and not quitting and scratching and clawing and making it look like a game, but again, still falling subject to the clock essentially, because there's not enough clock for you to make that full comeback.
All right, sorry, John. I just want to clarify that. Go ahead.
Sorry. I feel like I just took all the air out of your sails.
No, not at all. Because that ties into what lost the Lions the game for me was basically what Scott said and what you just said, Meko, is that it was just like too little, too late. They got out to that, like you said, hot start and then just froze. And I think, we can point to, Josh Reynolds dropping a touchdown, and we even said that the game was going to come down to like one, maybe two plays that got away from them. And I mean, the interception that did happen, it wasn't even a clean interception. The ball was tipped in the air. And so, I mean, we have all these things that, on their surface, you can find your way around them to make them not as bad as it sounds on the box score, the stat line. But so I think, too little, too late is what lost the Lions the game. And a lot of what you were saying. However, I think last season when it was 21-7, I think last season with the last year's team, this game does get out of hand. I think how many times did we see, especially, dude, when they got those two false starts in a row, I thought that was the beginning of the end. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And particularly. And they didn't. They came back and they got a first down after those two false starts, which I thought that's the grit they talk about. And that was great to see. But in keeping with that too little too late, I want to go over some stats with you guys and kind of also under the banner of like halftime adjustments. And
so this is like detective work.
I mean,
John did some deep diving.
Yeah. So Jalen Hurts in the first half, that's still going, huh?
No, it's not. I needed a little twang. I should play it the entire time you're reading your stats. Sorry, go ahead.
So Jalen Hurts, first half, he's 11 for 23 for 89 yards. 189 yards, 128 of which came in that disastrous second quarter. So he got 189 yards passing and 67 yards rushing on 10 attempts. So it's the first half. Second half, Jalen Hurts passing is 7 for 9 for 54 yards. In the fourth quarter, he was 2 for 4 for 10 yards. Rushing, he had 7 attempts for 23 yards in the entire second half. In the fourth quarter, he had 4 rushing attempts for 4 yards. I think we really figured it out. Now, Miles Sanders also picked it up in the second half. However, A.J. Brown in the first half, 6 receptions for 128 yards in the first half, but 0 touchdowns. Second half, 4 receptions for 27 yards, 0 touchdowns. In the third quarter, he had 3 receptions for 15 yards. And in the fourth quarter, he only had 1 reception for 12 yards. So while, yes, Miles Sanders kind of, as Jeremy pointed out in his tweet, picked up some of the slack, AJ Brown was effectively shut down. Jalen Hurts was effectively contained in the second half. And so if they can, and maybe this ties into my prediction for the Commanders game or touches on it. However, it also plays back into Meko's point, because this is a lot of what happened last year. And how many times did we say this is, if they could have just figured it out earlier.
Right.
And so I guess the broader question is like, are these like the last vestiges of this loser identity that Dan Campbell is trying to shed? And like, or is this like, is this who we are now? Like, is this who we are? This like perennially on the cusp of being great. And I do think that's another reason why we're seeing so many negative takes about the game, is because, as we all pointed out, the manner in which we lost, as you said, Meko, there were moments of the game where like this was winnable. I mean, everyone had this written off as a loss. And we even had that great segment, very fun, about what if we win. But like, I think that's what was so frustrating about this loss, is as good as the Eagles are, and they looked very good, that this game still looked winnable. And that's, I think, why there's just so much frustration.
So, John, go ahead, Meko.
I was going to say, so just to give my take on what I think lost this team the game, I was originally going to go with Scotty, and I was going to double down on Jared Goff, because I believe that second quarter lull is what puts you behind the 8 ball. It puts you so far behind the 8 ball. Even though he did go out and get a touchdown right after that pick 6, like,
you had to do that. Like, you had to do it, bro.
Yeah, you kind of had to do it to keep the game from being completely a wash, but it already felt like it's an uphill climb, right? I mean, like Scotty said, I was at the game, and so we got up from our seats to get something to drink at halftime, and you could just hear, Eagles fans, which, by the way, not bad. They're, a little annoying because the Eagles chant is just annoying, but like good fans, like that's fun people to be around. So like nobody that like was like super obnoxious.
I was gonna ask how the fans were. Like, I know that the Lions fans showed up, and that everybody said you couldn't hear, like Panay is like, you could not hear Goff's calls, and AJ Brown was like, no, good on them. I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, at one point in time, my ears legitimately started ringing. It was that loud.
That's amazing. Good on us, right? Like good job, Lions fans. Honestly,
I think the team will need that every game this year, every home game this year. This team will need that. But
it's been years since there was like standing room only in like a Lions game too, or something like that, isn't it?
And it looks weird at a stadium. It does look weird. To just see
people just standing
in these little outline squares. It looks weird. But no, the thing that I believe lost this team the game, like I said, I was going to double down on Jared Goff, because I feel like that second quarter was just unacceptable on any measure. It's unacceptable. But in hearing you guys talk, specifically you, Gionne, and in the point that you made, it actually makes me shift blame to Dan Campbell and this coaching staff.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that in a little bit, but go ahead.
Because as much as we've praised these guys of being just so in tune, setting these guys up for success and all of that, you look at that first half and you take into consideration all those numbers that you just rattled off for Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and all of that, and you wonder where was the adjustment, or not even the adjustment, because the adjustment came in the second half.
Where's the preparation?
Yeah.
Thank you. Why wasn't that the game plan?
Right. Thank you. That's what I was going to say later.
Like, this isn't.
You're on it.
This wasn't new. You didn't go into this game not knowing that Jalen Hurts could run. You didn't go into this game knowing that AJ Brown is a beast,
a monster. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you knew these things. Now, maybe there was more attention placed on Miles Sanders. Maybe you thought just getting pressure would be enough. Maybe. But I do think a little bit of blame goes towards this coaching staff, because as John pointed out, the second half adjustments were made. They started Yeah, they started to spy Anzalone. They started to play a little more contained. And yes, Miles Sanders did eat you up a bit, and that's when he started going, but the damage was at that point had been limited
Yeah.
Right.
And
significantly.
I would say like something had to give. Like if you're shutting down AJ Brown and shutting down Jalen Hurts, like the
Correct.
team's too good. Someone's got to give. And
Right.
like
So
yeah, it was
Sanders is
Miles
going to get
Sanders.
run. Yeah.
And he got yards, but in the second half he didn't get a touchdown. So like
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
and
sorry.
and I feel like it's important to point out that Miles Sanders going off in the second half was just what the Eagles needed. So yes, you started to take away Jalen Hurts, and yes, you started to limit AJ Brown. But by that point in time, all they needed to do was run clock.
They had to eat the clock. That's all they had to do, and that's what they did.
They essentially did to Dan Campbell what Dan Campbell said the Lions need to do other teams. They started to just pull them into the deep end because eventually you're going to realize you can't keep swimming.
Damn, Meko. Way to bring it back.
So that is what I believe lost this team the game. But like to Gionne's point, I think that's correctable. I think that's actually correctable going into next week. But I think in order for that to be like, not only does that need to be corrected, I think we also need to see some performances be sustained going into the next game. And I think for the rest of the season, which brings up our next topic,
Right.
which is going to be this.
Whew.
Of the guys who performed amazing this week,
Mhm.
I kind of limited to 4 guys. You guys in the comments might disagree with the guys that we're going to talk about. But between DeAndre Swift, Jeff Okudah, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Tracey Walker, all of those guys, I believe, played like lights out from beginning to end, or in Tracey's case,
Yeah,
from beginning to ejection.
Yeah. Like, and F him on that. That was dumb.
I'm giving Tracey a pass, and
That's
we can
fine.
get
It's still
once-
as a captain, if he wasn't a captain, but like he's a captain, that's just unacceptable. But yes,
it's not acceptable. Like, no, it is unacceptable. But I understand the frustration that goes into something like that. So that's why I'm being a little lenient,
sure.
because I think it's so easy to sit on a high horse, not saying that you're doing this, but other people to sit on a high horse and say he should know better. Dude, you haven't been getting hit, pushed in the back, who knows what under piles for 3 quarters.
Right.
You haven't had somebody say something crazy to you after your team has been getting like lit up for 3 quarters. I don't want to hear it.
That's fine, but still, that was big.
But for this question specifically, of those 4 guys, who do you think's performance is not just sustainable for the next game, but for the rest of the season?
Wow. Okay.
Gionne, let's go with you first.
Ooh, Gionne.
I might take some heat here.
But
I am gonna say I think Malcolm Rodriguez.
Ooh. Not the person I thought was going to. Not you are not the person I thought was going to pick Rodrigo.
No, he thought it was going to be me.
Yeah.
And only because the rest of the season, like Swift, he looked elite. Like he looked like every bit of he lived up to he lived up to what Deuce said about him in Hard Knocks, like behind the scenes. Like he lived up to that. And just like Scott said, inside. He went inside and like and yeah. So
extra 5 yards every time.
I'm gonna, he's gonna get a cramp or a Charlie horse or something. Like there's something's going to happen at some point in the season. He's gonna miss some games. Okudah, I really think I have faith in him. I think he's gonna I think he's back, and I think he finally is the person that we thought we were drafting, and I couldn't be happier. But for me, sample size is still too small. Tracey Walker, love the dude. And it was really a toss up between Rodrigo and Walker, and I went with Rodriguez because we saw in OTAs, we saw in training camp, we saw in Hard Knocks, we saw in the preseason that everyone said that for a guy his size, he has to play perfectly. And that's what we've seen from him is perfection. And I mean, there may be some missed assignments, but for the most part,
No,
he has played like I think Dan Campbell said, and I think he was, I don't think he specifically said he was talking about Rodriguez, but he said, you know, if your assignment is this gap, it doesn't matter what the quarterback's doing. This is your gap. And I think Rodriguez, for whatever reason, maybe it's his wrestling background, whatever it is, he's able to mentally compartmentalize and just zero in on that. That's my gap. That's my assignment. And I'm going to hit it at the right angle at the right time. And everything we've seen so far shows that he is absolutely consistent, and everything just checks every box. And there's no reason for me to believe that consistency won't continue.
And John, to add on to your point, Dan Campbell said in his presser, he said that Rodrigo didn't miss an assignment in the game. Now, I don't know if that's true, but Dan Campbell said he didn't miss an assignment.
Yeah.
Anything. He was basically flawless is what he said. I don't know if that's true, but he was the highest rated PFF player on the lines, was Rodrigo.
Really?
Yeah.
Defensively.
Because I know Deshaun Elliott had an 80 in coverage.
Yeah,
I know was the top rated defensive player.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, and I think like Swift was the highest graded.
Correct.
Shout out to Deshaun Elliott. He had a great game.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, anyway.
No, so I was just adding to your point. Yeah. So I mean, he theoretically did play perfect, or at least in Dan Campbell's eyes. You know.
Scotty, who do you have?
Okay. All right. Who is more likely to repeat their star performance for the rest of the season? Ugh. Wow. So I was first going to go with Rodrigo, as you were aware, because Meko was going to call that out, as he did call it out. Because he's been so consistent, right? 6th round pick. It's just what a snag, right? You got to give Holmes like credit on this one. Well, remember when we drafted and we were looking at the tape, we're like, holy shit, look at this guy. Remember? We were all like, I remember the vividly. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's a beast. And like, gotta love the hip toss too. It's just entertainment, right? I mean, it's very much like a gladiator to me. He's just a big man that's throwing people around, and that's fun to watch. So I originally went there, but I think, in my opinion, that this is Swift's season. So again, it with all of these players, it's about health. But I think DeAndre Swift, if they're going to keep him around 20 touches a game, I think that, because I think he had 18 or 20, it was close to 20.
I think it was like 16.
16. Yeah, but he got that many yards on 16 carries.
Sorry,
and then he had 15 carries and 3 receptions.
Yep.
Yeah, so 15. I mean, if he can play like that, I mean, under 20 touches a game, I think he should be able to stay healthy. And if that's the case, and that's how he's running, nobody can stop him. I think he's a top RB in the league. Yeah. I don't think he's the top, but I think he is a top running back in the league. I think everyone's going to have to prepare for him, and he's going to be tricky because you can't stop him. If he gets past one tackle, which he did, like on a lot of his runs, you can't stop him because he's running angry, and I love it. And Deuce has got him rolling. And so I think, and I hope too, but I think this is Swift's season. I mean, this is a season he wants to make a statement. So I think Swift, with Rodrigo second. I know Okudah and Walker, they played well. I mean, I'm just happy for Jeff, good for him.
Yeah.
And it's, you know what? And good for him when he's off the field. We need him. I mean, that was the other thing too, right? He came off for cramps, which does happen on an Achilles. So when so my Achilles that I pop, it cramps, my cramps all the time. Doesn't matter. Cramps all the time. It's really, because it's hard to stretch because you're stretching that tendon as much as you're stretching the calf. So it's not just a calf stretch, it's a tendon and a calf stretch. So you can't really get the stretch that you need because you're stretching the tendon to loosen it up. Right. So it's tough. He'll deal with that all season. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Meko?
I'm also going to go with Swift. But before I give my reason for why Swift,
Oh,
I'm going to break down like the other three options or why I'm not choosing one of the other three options. Jeff, like you guys have all said it, I am in complete agreement. I am so happy for Jeff
Yeah.
yeah,
to get
totally.
out of a game healthy, but on top of that, to just have like such a stellar performance. Like being there in person, I was literally keying in on him, and I'm talking about just perfect get off from the line, just perfect shadowing of his man, staying in the hip pocket, and not to mention his tackling, which Jeff has always been a great tackler since he's been here, but just continuing that level of play. The
Also,
only
that
reason
was not pass interference. I don't think that was pass interference. That's bull. That was a weak PI call.
Oh, yeah,
That was weak.
but
Lions fan.
the only reason I'm not picking Jeff is because there's some really good receivers left, and who knows who and how the Lions are gonna choose to cover certain guys.
Right.
In this game, they decided to just, like, keep Amani and Jeff on specific people. Who knows how that changes, but there's some other receivers that they're gonna have to battle with, and
This weekend,
hopefully
one of them.
yeah, right. Hopefully, the Jeff's like performance repeats itself, but I'm not holding my breath because some of these guys are just they're built different. Every receiver is built a little differently, and they're going to attack Jeff differently. Rodrigo, I think Rodrigo would have been my second choice, and it's for a lot of the same things that you guys said. He has just continued to improve practice after practice, preseason after preseason, and I think he will continue to do the same thing game after game. I think he will get a little bit better every single game.
God, wouldn't that
But
be
at the same
something?
time,
Wouldn't that be something? He's a rookie starting almost perfect games.
but at the same time, I'm also got to take into account he is a rookie, and I believe
Yeah.
he's going to have that rookie performance in the same way that Aiden Hutchinson did in this one. He's going to have a game like that. He's going to have a game where he gets tricked, where eventually they're going to like teams are going to try. If he's consistently performing, then he's going to eventually become a target where they're going to see, can we trick him? Can we get him to over pursue or overreact to something? So I feel like he's going to have up and down games just strictly because he's a rookie.
That's fair. We haven't even talked about Hutch, but go ahead.
Tracey, oh, Hutch is coming up.
Yeah.
Tracey is so close. Was really one that I wanted to pick as well, John. And it's very similar to Swift. I just think this is Tracey's year. I think Tracey is going to cement himself as one of the top safeties in this league and a
Oh,
safety that can do it all. And we saw it in this game before he got ejected. He was tackling well. He was there in coverage. He's rushing the quarterback. Like Tracey can do
yeah,
everything.
he had a nice TFL.
He's also like the protector on punt coverage. Like, so there's just so many things that Tracey can do. And I do think, like DeAndre Swift, this is his year. I think this is his year that he makes a Pro Bowl. I think this is a year that he like cements himself as one of those top safeties, and he's going to put a lot of people on notice.
I could see Swift and Walker making the Pro Bowl. Yeah,
Absolutely.
if they keep it up. I mean, one game, but
Sure. Now, but I have to go DeAndre Swift, and it's for a lot of the same things Scotty said. DeAndre, I believe, is on a mission, and I don't think he made those goals lightly, and I think he is going to put so much pressure on teams to try to stop him.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure there's a way that you can stop him in every phase of the game. There may be games where he maybe doesn't rush it for as many yards, but I think those will be the games where you see he's going to have 100 yards receiving.
correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll throw him the ball. I mean,
Like
he was
he's
lining up outside. He was lining up as wide receiver. He was all over. They moved him around.
and I think as long as this coaching staff understands how pivotal he is to their success, which I think he put on full display in this game,
Mm-hmm.
you feed him in any way you possibly can. You feed DeAndre Swift. You get him the ball however you can, whether it's in the first half or the second half, if you have to make adjustments, but you get that man the ball.
Now I have a
And I just
question.
believe that it's Swift season.
I have a question with that, Meko. So we said, so he had what, 15 carries is what you
Yeah.
said?
16.
Mhm.
16 carries. Should we have
15.
just fed the beast at that point? Like, I mean, would that have,
So,
you mean
so
you
to
know
go back,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
just
So I got to give a huge
discussion.
shout out to friend of the show, Jeremy Reisman and Pride of Detroit. They did a really great article that explains why the Lions stalled in the second quarter. And if you go and read that article, there are not many rushing attempts in that span where they stalled in the second quarter.
Right. It was like
Right.
pass.
It's a lot of passes. I
Yeah.
think one of the most positive plays that happened during that stall is a DeAndre Swift run for 6 yards and a Jamal Williams run later for like 4 or 5 yards. But other than those, like the Lions kind of abandoned the run in the second half. And it doesn't make a ton of sense when you look at how successful DeAndre Swift ended up being. So, to Scotty, to your point, yeah, I think they probably should have fed the beast a little bit more.
Now they might
Meko
want to
was right. It was
they might be
15. I just looked it up.
okay. So they might want to be protecting him too for the season. You know, they don't want to get him injured, but still, like, you got to win the games. Like, we're here to win the games. To Miko's point, this is a win league. This is a
Yeah.
show. This is a show league right now, as Aubrey Pleasant says. Right, this is a show league. So you got to win that game. So run the ball. I just don't. And this goes back to coaching or play calling. Right? We didn't. I mean,
Yeah, it's one of the two, or execution, right? Because again, some of those passes maybe should have been caught. Some of it's miscommunication.
Did we
fair.
ever know, like, did Reynolds or Hawkinson, or sorry, Chark and Hawkinson run the wrong route on those?
Oh,
Was that
so
ever resolved? Like, do we ever know what happened?
so the article that I talk about on the pick six, where Jared is trying to throw that to Hawkinson, Jeremy does a really good job of analyzing that. And essentially, it's one of two things on that play. Either Goff misread the route or TJ ran the wrong route. And Jeremy is of the belief that Hawkinson made the right decision running the route he wrote, that he ran, and that Jared made the wrong read. And I agree with that, because if you look at that play, yes, he gets immediate pressure, but he was already determining where he was going with that ball. That ball was not going out in front of TJ. It was
No.
going
Yeah, it was
outside.
Right.
And so that's probably the case there. The one with DJ Chark, I think that one does tend to go a little bit more towards DJ Chark, that he might have ran the wrong route on that one.
Yeah.
But the
My
Hawkinson one,
you would get new team.
Yeah.
New I mean, that's
my
okay.
my because, like, yeah, that's what I thought on the Chark one, that it was on DJ. The Hawkinson one I didn't know. And like the only reason why I say it was on my first belief was that it was on Chark was they cut back to show Goff's face like immediately after the throw, and
Yeah.
Goff looked like just
Dumbfounded.
what?
Yeah, he was shocked.
Wait, what? Like, just
Yeah.
what just had, like, he was absolutely had no idea what planet he was on. Like, just what just, it's like, so my
Oh,
there's
I'll let you finish.
there's
I'll
a
let you
video.
finish,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said he didn't know what planet he was on, because that makes it think that it is his fault. The look on his face was the exact same look I had on my face when my wife, when we were just dating, she for my birthday one year, she coordinated with my sister. They flew out. We were at Universal Studios. I had no idea like any of this was happening, and she like says, "Wait here. I'm gonna go meet our friends who were coming in," which was true. I knew we were meeting friends later in the day. I didn't know, like, I thought it was our friend Max and Brad.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Max and Brad are here. Let me go get them. Stay here." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So she goes, and I'm sitting there. I'm on my phone, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's my sister, and she had flown in from Pittsburgh, and Rachel was recording it. And the look on my face was just like, this is impossible. And it's still one of my favorite, like, I'm speechless, just absolutely speechless, staring at this impossible thing that's in front of me. And that was the look on Jared Goff's face when he threw that ball and DJ Chark was over here.
Yeah. So sorry. So that play is actually also in the breakdown. And the way Jeremy describes it, again, go to Pride of Detroit and read this article for yourself in case that I am like misquoting it a little bit. I believe Jared Goff also gets pressure on that play. They do a third down blitz on that play. And essentially there should have been a hot route, right? Like basically there should have been communication between DJ and Jared. Hey, there's a blitz coming. This pass is coming quicker. So whatever route you're going to run, run a different one because I got to get rid of this quickly. And apparently that communication was either broken, like either that communication didn't happen. So a la Jared didn't see it and therefore didn't communicate it, or it was communicated and DJ didn't hear it.
Well, that would make sense with the fans, right? Now, if the fans were going crazy, that would make sense. You can't hear anything. As AJ Brown said, I couldn't hear anything.
Right.
So
it's one of the
makes sense. We don't know, but
yeah, so that's kind of how that play broken down. And I believe in Jeremy's article, he doesn't quite know who to blame with that one.
Okay, that's fair. And does Hockenson need to do more? We didn't talk. I mean, he did okay, right? He did.
I believe he did okay. I think he maximized on his opportunities. I think there was one pass that he dropped that I think could have been a much better pass. I believe, again, there's the old adage, right? If it hits your hands, you got to catch it. But there's also like not every drop pass is made equal. And so you make a pass more difficult to catch if you put it too out far in front and the guy has to fully extend. And that happened on multiple occasions.
Yeah, where Hockenson had to dive and then they challenged it, but they gave it to him. But that was a great diving catch that he shouldn't have had to dive for, cutting across the middle.
And so there's that one. There's the one that TJ dropped. There's the one to Josh Reynolds that would have been an easy touchdown. Again, should Josh have probably caught it? Yeah, maybe. But could Jared Goff also thrown him a better ball?
Yeah,
absolutely. So there's that whole thing as well. But kind of keeping things moving because we got a few more topics that we want to get through, and we still want to talk about the Commanders game.
Yeah, we got to talk on that.
We talked about the guys that we think performance like was really, really good, but there were some performances in this game by a couple players that were not very good.
They were terrible. They were just terrible.
And that raises the question.
Horrible.
We're going to focus on three players in particular.
Yeah.
And those players being Jared Goff, Amani Oruwariye, and Aiden Hutchinson. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to throw another person in the comments if you feel like somebody else deserves to be on this list. But between those three guys, who was the player that like has you the most concerned? And Scotty, I'll go with you first.
Okay. Most concerned. I think Hutch, game one rookie, he was so jazzed up. He was so jacked. He was overshooting everything. I think he'll fix it, right? I think that he like Rodrigo, hopefully he's not going to make the same mistake twice. And if not twice, I think he'll correct it. So I'm not overly concerned with that. We needed him to play. We talked about this last week. We needed him to show up because if he has a better game, that is extremely helpful. But again, I'm going to go back to I'm the most concerned with Goff. Not even a question for me. Because he's got to play better. Because again, like we said, if Goff doesn't show up, we're not going to win. Like we got to make he's got to make better passes. He's got to be more consistent. He's got to, and I thought that he didn't necessarily it felt like he didn't get too rattled with all the pressure. Now I know he doesn't do well under pressure, and that's very clear, but I thought it seemed to me in watching him in the game, he felt okay in that. Now, I think that is why some of his passes were off, though, because of the pressure and just off enough.
Okay.
Right? Those drops, like you said, are not created equal. They're all different. Yes, the guys dropped it, but yes, Jared could have thrown a better ball. So to me, it's a lot on him, and he's the quarterback. This is a quarterback league, and it's got to be on him, and he's got to take it, and I think he did, and he knows he's got to play better. And I think he said it he knows. I mean, it's on. To me, that's where it lies on him. So,
GM?
I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to say Oruwariye.
Oh, are you?
Because I completely agree with Scott. Hutch, first game, rookie. We've heard Campbell say how many times you'd never have to tell Hutchinson the same thing twice. Like you never have to give him the same note twice.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna figure it out, and I think he's gonna figure it out very quickly.
Hopefully.
And on the flip side of that coin, it certainly seemed like they were calling a different style of game, like more of a contain. We didn't see him in the second half, certainly not in the fourth quarter, overshoot the quarterback the way he was doing. So I think, going back to our coach's issue, scheme, whatever, I'm not worried about Hutch. Goff, I'm honestly not that concerned about. He hadn't played in a month, and you can say, you're a professional, you're blah, blah, blah. Well, Philadelphia Eagles are professionals too. And so I'm not too again, we talked about it before. I think he's going to figure it out. I think this was, he hadn't played in a month, and he's got Fletcher Cox barreling at him. And so he's not wearing the red jersey anymore. I think he's going to settle in. And I keep going back to something that Dan Campbell also said during the first joint practice with the Colts is you work on these fundamentals. And then you stand across from like an actual opponent and someone who you have not been standing across from for 2 straight weeks. And your ego kind of takes over and those fundamentals kind of go out the window, and it takes a while to resettle. And I think that's exactly what happened kind of a lot with the team at large during the first half. Now, whether that Meko, as you said, that's a pattern that kind of happened last season. So that's a very cause for concern. I'm going to kind of, view this admittedly through rose-colored glasses and say that I think these were just ego, throwing fundamentals out the window, and then they kind of settled in, they figured it out. So I think Goff's going to figure it out. But Amani Oruwariye is someone who was supposed to come in and kind of be the Tracey Walker of the cornerbacks. And he was kind of set to take this step forward and kind of be at least maybe a top 15, top 20 corner in the league. And there was a lot of pressure. There were a lot of expectations coming on. We said Hutch, first game in the NFL, Goff, first game in a month. I think the reason why I'm more concerned about Oruwariye is I don't know where his poor performance came from.
Okay. That's fair.
I can tell you, John. We'll have
you were doing so well.
We're gonna have to detective that out. We're gonna have to get to the bottom.
Doing so well with those drops. The car.
I know that one. I know. I just want to use it so much. It's a new one. Sorry. Okay, Nico, go.
So I'm gonna work backwards as well. I'm gonna agree with you guys on Hutch. I just think it's rookie game, and he had a couple opportunities, and I do think he'll be better for it. I know there's going to be people that are like, well, he's the second overall pick and blah, 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 blah. Again, not every game is created equal, and he's still a rookie. Right. I've been said that I don't expect him to go out and get a sack every game. I think it would be great. I think it's wishful thinking. This game, it just wasn't there. He had his opportunities, and I think next week, if he has those same opportunities, he capitalizes on them. But I wasn't like overly discouraged. It's never good when your second overall pick only has 1 tackle. It's also not great either when you see what the first overall pick did. And throwing this out there now, if Trayvon Walker continues to play the way he's playing, we will owe him an apology. I'm just saying that right now. Dude had a sack and an interception, and the interception was sick. So
wow, okay,
yeah.
So we may owe him an apology, but I'm not gonna heap a ton of negative energy towards Hutch because I think he's going to get better. Amani is somebody that I was very much going to give this nod to because it was so bad. It was so bad. But the thing that swayed me, again, shout out to Pride of Detroit. They did a midday stream today, and I got to throw a question out there that got answered. And it was in regards to Amani. And I basically was just like, is this Amani being bad, or was it the matchup? And Eric did a really good job of answering this question where he's basically just like the matchup wasn't there for Amani. Right?
What
They
does
they
that mean?
put so AJ Brown is a more imposing and physical receiver. And the way Eric explained it, Amani's not that type of corner. He's not as big as Amani is. He doesn't typically use his size to be physical at the line of scrimmage. That's actually something that Jeff does a little bit better, in Eric's opinion. However,
Yeah, Jeff is up on guys. Like he'll push them and he'll be on them and throws them off the route a little. Like that's how he's up on them. Anyway,
right.
yeah, that's interesting.
But he also pointed out that Devonta Smith, though, is the route technician. And again, that typically plays better in Jeff's favor because Jeff is just a little more technically sound. Again, in Eric's opinion, in his coverage ability. So by default, that's the matchup that he believes the Lions went with. Is we will put the physical technician on the more like frail receiver that has big playability to completely, hopefully, neutralize him, which Jeff did.
Mhm.
And we will just believe that Amani will be able to hold his own on his side. But the nature of the way things played out is just that AJ Brown is that guy. He is a monster. He is a problem to deal with. And Eric's under the belief that this was just a one-game performance.
Okay.
And I tend to kind of lean that way when we look at last season. Amani played really well last season. I think he has 6 interceptions. He played really, really well. The games that he did not play well in, though, that come to mind, do you guys remember the Minnesota game? Where like Justin Jefferson was talking to him all game as he was just torching him.
That was got worked.
I think what we as fans are going to come to realize as the season goes along is that there may not be a true number one like cornerback on this team. That Jeff and Amani are both ideal, at least Jeff right now, and Amani are ideally just CB2s, but one of them is being forced to play CB1.
Okay.
And so there are probably going to be matchups where Amani's going to struggle. Now, again, maybe the Lions do things differently, but I think because they want to take things easy on Jeff, Amani's going to get some really tough matchups at times. And it may be not the best matchup, but it's the matchup that he has to take in order to make sure that Jeff doesn't overexert himself. So that leads me to Goff. And I'm concerned not strictly for how he played in this game, but for the fact that it was a repeat pattern of what we saw so much of last year. He wasn't playing well. And at some point in time, Jared has to put together full games. Like he has to consistently do that. He has to consistently put together first quarter through fourth quarter where he is on it. Because these games can get out of hand quickly, as we saw. And when he's not on it, like Scotty said, whether it's pressure, whether it's miscommunication, whether it's just being a ball being slightly outside or slightly too high, those are missed opportunities where this team should be scoring. And again, he admitted that he believes that this team could have put up 50.
And that's
a problem.
That is a problem. I was just going to say that's a problem. And the NFL is a league that is built where the games are supposed to be close. I mean, a lot of the games are close. Some of them are, but like, I mean, you have to, it's a quarterback league right now, and they have to pull together a full game. They have to do it right. They have to make the right decisions. They have to make the right throws. And when you
got to be able to, you got to be able to match teams point for point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but so going back, and then we should move on. But going back very quickly to that second quarter, we did 3 and outs in a row. As we pointed out earlier, we didn't run. And someone was pointing this out. I don't know who it was, but they basically said that was when the Eagles ran all over the defense, because I think the defense was exhausted. And their point was like, you don't need to score every drive. You just need to get like a first down or two to just let your defense rest. Right. Like you don't, but a 3 and out is the worst thing you can do.
It was a 20-second 3 and out. The defense got 20 seconds.
Oh my god. So like
I agree with that. I agree. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Right. That is something that's another responsibility that Jared has. If you can't at least score or get touchdowns or get field goals, you at least have to put sustainable drives that give your defense a chance to recoup, that gives them a chance to look at the surface, like to look at the tablet and figure out what they did wrong the series before. But like Scotty says, if you're having 20-second, 3-and-outs, which is a little longer than that because of timeouts and stuff like that. So they're getting like a couple minutes.
But yeah.
But again, that's 2 to 3 minutes in comparison to 7 to 8 if you can sustain a drive.
Right.
Yeah.
And on top of this, right, Jared Goff, one would think there was no runs in there. If Jared Goff knows what's working, can't he audible into a run play? I mean, now, is he being told, and is this one of those things where we said that McVay's in his ear and he's not making his own decisions? Like at what point, Jared, you got to make the decision, man. You're on the field. So
Jared says he has full command of the offense. I'm going to believe that he has that.
Then if that's the case, I mean, that's an instance where maybe, should have audible to a run. Maybe
some of the, again, I think that could be something that's a reason to ding him a bit, but I think we've exhausted the Eagles game.
Agreed.
We have a game coming up this week. We have the potential for a win. So with that said, is this game a must win?
Yes.
100%.
I'm gonna agree. It is.
Yeah, it's a must win. I'm going to hop in real quick too. We talked about wide receivers, right? We were just talking about wide receivers, and this will be a challenge this weekend with Dotson and McLaurin, right? Dotson had a game.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz actually had the best home opener of a Commanders quarterback since Kirk Cousins, and I think it was, like 2014 or something like that. It was a while ago, but Carson Wentz had a good game, throwing the ball around. I mean, Gibson had a game. It's not going to be easy. I think we can do it, but we're going to have to show up. We're going to have to show up and play a full game. Full game to win this game. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it is definitely a must win after this past weekend. But we had predicted we were going to lose this weekend, so wasn't a shock. But this was on our list as a must. This was a win for us, correct?
Yeah, I think we all had this as a win.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll be the good luck charm. So it's fine. I'll get the guys going on the field. I'll get them going on the bench. Don't worry.
I feel like we won't hear the end of it if that is the case. Gionne, why do you think
it's got to go to every game on the field?
What?
I think it's a must win, just because how many times, like for everything we've talked about here, Eagles are a NFC Championship caliber team. A lot of people saying potentially Super Bowl bound, if they can stay healthy. And how many people were saying, oh, well, if we only lost by 3 points to the Eagles, then how many teams are we going to play this season that are as good as the Eagles? Not many. So I really do think they need to prove that now. In the second half, they played to the level of the Eagles, and they sure should. Had that game been 5 more minutes, they would have won. And they can't go into this game and play at the level of the Commanders. They have to play at the level of the Eagles, and I think they'll win by 10. But if they could show up and they play to the level of their opponent, then I think we'll learn a lot about who they are, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah,
they need to clean it up.
So I have this as a must win as well, and it's essentially kind of piggybacking off of what John was just saying. I don't think the Commanders are on the Eagles level. You beat a bad Jaguars team that I believe is very even with us as far as talent, as far as where they are in their rebuild. I think we're right there. I think we're actually a little bit ahead of Jacksonville. When you especially look at like talent at the receiver and running back position and offensive line.
Robinson did
So
have a good day though.
he did. He ain't DeAndre Swift, respectfully.
Right.
So looking at this matchup and looking at like what Washington did and gave up against Jacksonville, they gave up over 383 total yards. They gave up 260 yards passing. They gave up 123 yards rushing. You mean to tell me that the Lions can't replicate that, or they shouldn't be able to replicate that
Right.
level of offensive output? They gave up 24 first downs to Jacksonville. And then on their end, offensively, yeah, Carson Wentz had a game passing wise. But I do go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to piggyback right off of that. To that point, all we as I said earlier, the Lions did not allow a passing touchdown against the Eagles. And all touchdowns scored, all of the Commanders' touchdowns scored against Jacksonville were passing. They did not run it in.
So, I mean, it's something that should, in theory, be an advantage for the Lions. So it's something that I believe should play to their strength, is that if they have at least stout coverage to keep guys out of the end zone, even if they give up yardage, to at least keep them out of the end zone, that's something that should play into their favor. But I also think the Lions have a much more aggressive and fierce pass rush. Like we said, they didn't necessarily get home on Jalen Hurts because of a lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts' athleticism,
mobility, and finding a loophole in the intentional grounding rule.
Seriously, pulled that one out of a hat.
Yeah.
But so I think you see more pressures. Also, Washington did commit turnovers in this game. That was something that the Eagles didn't do when playing the Lions. They didn't commit any turnovers. Washington did. Carson Wentz still threw 2 picks. So he's still
that guy.
Still capable of doing that.
And he's not as mobile, right? So to your point, Meko, we should be able to get after him, hopefully.
And so
day for Hutch.
So I think the Lions should win this game, and they have to win this game to at least keep morale high. And I think they have a lot of things working in their favor. I do think they have the better pass rush. Outside pass rush, because that interior for Washington is insane.
I looked it up right before we started recording. It's like they're a top 10 D line on like everyone's list this year.
Yeah, they recently had an injury to one of their I think defensive tackles, but still, you still have to deal with Jonathan Allen, and you still have to just
Montez Sweat.
Deal with Montez Sweat and Daron Payne, I believe. So those guys you still have to deal with. But if Jacksonville could put pressure on them, I believe the Lions can. I think they have it. I think they have the advantage at running back. I think they have the advantage at wide receiver against their corners. And I think they have the advantage at quarterback. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I think they have the advantage at quarterback.
I do too. Yeah, I think, again, Scott said Robinson had a great game. That's amazing to hear, because everyone was saying that this D-line is, I was just looking at one. I don't know if it was Pro Football Focus. I've got like 9 tabs open on my computer, but someone had him at number 2. Someone had him at the second best D-line. And if Robinson is putting up a game against that D-line, then bro, I'm sorry, with our O-line and with DeAndre Swift, like, again, I'm going to use, I know I say I don't like to use it, but should, like, I think that this is where you can use that word, because the end result will be telling. If James Robinson and Jacksonville are running on this D-line and we're not, I'm sorry, like, that's a problem.
You're not playing up to your talent level.
Yeah, I do think we have an advantage, like you said, a receiver. And I do think I looked up one of those other tabs that's open is the Commanders' O-line. They're top 15, but nowhere, like, someone has them as high as 7, but someone else has them like as low as 17. So just averaged out, it comes to about 15, 14. So nowhere near the Eagles O-line. Like, they don't have a 6'8", 320 pound. They're not going to have, what is it, Mailaka was his name? Hutch isn't going to be going up against a 6'8", 300 pound building. Yeah, I'd like to. I think receivers, run game, O-line is where the Lions have the advantage, and I think they don't have an AJ Brown. I know Scary Terry and I know Dotson, but shut down Devontae Smith and Terry McLaurin. I don't think is on the same level as AJ Brown. So
Yeah, at least probably not as physically imposing, right?
yeah,
So this may be a better matchup for Amani if he's the one who has to
That's what I was
cover
just
him.
gonna say.
very
that,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this could be a good matchup for Amani to show up and hopefully show out. Um, yeah, good points, John. I think I agree with both of you guys. I mean, I think we have the advantage in general, but and this probably gets into our next point too. I just think that we need to make sure we play the full game and stay focused, and we don't dig ourselves in a hole. I don't think that we can't afford any mistakes, right? We got to play a full game. And that starts with the coaching. That starts with the preparation that we talked about, right? Preparing for this to make sure that we're doing the right things right off the bat on offense and defense. From what we saw from their tape last week and what we did well and what we did poorly. So to me, so with this, first off, like, where do I think the Lions have the advantage? I agree with both of you guys. I don't have to repeat that. But where must the Lions improve most this week? I think that Goff needs to have a full game, like we talked about. But I think the team needs to put together the full game. And like I said, that's the coaches, that's Goff, that's making sure Swift is still doing what he's doing and keep doing that. Receivers catch the ball. Like, it's just like, get sharper, right? Let's win the game. Like, play to win. It was we didn't do it. And so we have to do it. I think this game is going to be closer. I think it's still going to be close, but I do think we win. But we have to finish, right? It's one of those things. It's finishing the play, finishing the hits. I think we are a good hitting team, but finishing those catches, finishing the plays, like Swift, like finish the like basically if everyone's finishing like Swift, this wouldn't be the conversation.
Yeah.
So what they must improve. Yeah, I think just generally overall, like they need to finish. Does that make any sense? I feel like
Absolutely. No, yeah, I think that's
felt a
I
little
think that's actually a really good point. I think it's a really good thing to point out is that the ability to finish a game, to start hot and finish hot is a huge
yeah.
thing that they need to focus on. Gionne?
I think that quick note, first time in 24 games that the Lions are like Vegas odds has them to win.
Oh, yeah.
First time in 24 games.
Isn't it like what, like -2?
Yeah, 2.5 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it went up half. Nice.
Oh yeah. So that's great. No, I think the Lions must improve. I'm gonna, because I do agree with everything Scott said. So I'm gonna just phrase it differently and say the fundamentals, is that really seemed to be off. Like, regardless of if it was on Hawkinson or Goff and Chark,
Right.
like that's fundamentals. And I think that needs to be cleaned up. And so I'm gonna go ahead and say fundamentals. Also, shout out to our special teams. Like that they did great.
Good call.
Yeah.
So they should get some love. But yeah, so I'm just gonna say the Lions need to improve on the fundamentals. If everyone played the way Swift, if everyone plays with the aggression and physicality of Swift and the mentality of Rodriguez, we'll be great.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's go. And John, to add on to your special teams point, it felt like the Eagles did not kick it to us to return it, like, ever.
Correct.
They kicked it out. Like, they purposefully did not want us returning, which was interesting. I'm like, oh, of course they're going to kick it out. Like, they don't want to give us the ball, which
I didn't think of that, but yeah, you're totally right. They never gave us the chance to return.
No, because I was mad. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, they kicked it out again.
So I'm actually gonna pick up where Gionne left off, because you were saying if everyone plays with the ferocity and attitude of Swift, if they play what did you say, with the execution
Mentality
of Rodrigo. And I'm gonna say if they also play with the finishing ability of Tracey Walker.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw, because that to me is a thing that I think the Lions need to improve on. Right. John, I think it was you that pointed out that they had 19 pressures, but only 1 sack, I believe, 2 sacks, one of which came by Tracey Walker.
Yeah.
And I believe, I can't remember who the other one was by. But that's where they need to improve the most, is that you have to capitalize on those pressures. Pressures are a great way of, I think, in my opinion, is a great way to say, well, you didn't do nothing. Like, you weren't just lollygagging, you were trying.
Yeah.
I need try to turn into do. Get the sack. Get the forced fumble. Like, really wreak havoc in the backfield for Carson Wentz, because he's not that different from Jared Goff, where like you hit that dude enough times and he's going to do something crazy with the ball. Like, he's going to I mean, I believe it was last year. Didn't he like sprain both ankles on an interception, like trying to get rid of the ball, and he sprained both ankles?
Yeah. I don't know. Okay.
That's next level, like, chaos and just like a detriment to yourself and to your team. But so that's what I think the Lions need to improve on. You need to capitalize on those pressures. Aiden Hutchinson needs to get home. Charles Harris needs to get home. Aleem needs to push the pocket and make it difficult for Carson Wentz to step up. And when they send linebacker blitz, Derek Barnes, I swear to Jesus, if you don't make a tackle.
Right.
Love Derek Barnes. I think I do. I think Derek Barnes is everything that Kelvin Shepherd has said he will be, but he's got to make those tackles.
Yep.
You got to finish the play. And that's the same thing with everybody. You got to, when you have an opportunity to get a sack, to get a tackle for loss, to make an interception.
Right. I think it goes back to the word of the day for this weekend is finishing. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good term for.
I got a new job for you then. Get the Mortal Kombat finish him.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll throw that in the mix. But like, because you're right, that I think all three of us have in some form or fashion said that, whether it's fundamentals, whether it's playing a full game, or just it's finish, right? It's finish and execute. And I think if the Lions can do that better than they did this game, I think they blow out the Commanders. I'm gonna say it. I think it is
snap.
Screw that 2.5. I think it's ugly for Washington.
So we didn't do this for the Eagles, and I'd love to close out because I actually do have a final score in mind.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
Meko, I don't know. Do you want to? Because I think it's going to be 31-21.
I think it will be 31-7.
I love it. Okay, Scotty.
Oh man, you guys put me on the spot. I love and hate when you do this.
Go with your gut. You're thinking too hard. Your heart already knows what the score. Your heart knows what the score is.
31-28.
Oh.
So you still have it being close.
I have it a field goal.
Boo.
Now, hold on. but I have it a field goal with us being up and then they're scoring late. So the final score is closer than the actual game is. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think I know it's probably the boldest prediction I will probably throw out this year. Actually, no, scratch that.
No,
they play the Patriots. I'm gonna say something
I was going to say the Patriots.
Not true.
I'm going to say something ridiculous.
And I hope that's not true. That's what.
Yeah, no, when they play the Patriots, it's going to be something disrespectful. In the event that they start winning some games, it's going to be something disrespectful.
Love that.
But no, man, great show. I think we all have high hopes.
We're expecting a win this weekend.
Yeah.
Expecting a win.
And if they lose, we can blame Scotty for being there.
That's fine. And when they win, I'm going to have to go to like every game, and I'm the good luck charm. So,
yeah.
If they win, Scotty's going to come in and have a wheelbarrow attached to him.
That's right.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out Tyreek Hill.
Oh my gosh. So I think that's it, right? I think that's a lot. That was a good show, guys. Yeah, like Appreciate that. Again, please like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I will be at the game this weekend. I'm very excited. It is my birthday. Very excited. So please head over to Questionable Tees. Check out the new Motor City Dan Campbell Lions tour shirt. Also the new Hockamania. Very cool WrestleMania logo. Go check that out. That's a fun one. And then we got a new one dropping this week also. So surprise, surprise. That will drop later this week. And again, I want to thank the fam. I want to thank the crew. I want to thank you guys, John and Meko, every week. This is a blast. And I can't wait for what's next and what, theoretically what we can do with this channel as we grow and potentially move some things around. So very excited about that. Yeah, Meko.
Yeah, no, definitely got to thank my wife, my kids, you guys, everybody that has taken the time to come by, hang out with us, hang out in the comment section. We appreciate you. I got a couple comments that I got to catch up on. But no, thank you guys. And like Scotty's teased a little bit, yeah, there are big things coming for this podcast, the channel. And I can't wait to be able to share all that stuff with you guys once we iron out all the details.
Gionne.
Yeah, I'm thankful to my wife, as always, first and foremost. And yeah, for you guys for keeping this together. I'd never do anything like this on my own. So, and I have a blast doing it. So, yeah, this is great. I like homework.
Nice.
I like homework. Yeah, good calling the numbers today. All right, you guys, appreciate you. Appreciate all of you. And yeah, we'll see you on Sunday. One Pride, go Lions. This is the Questionable Podcast. Out.